All right. All right. Okay. All right. Let's calm down with that. Hello, hello, hello. Let me do a quick sound check here to make sure everything is working okay. Hang on a second here. All right. So we seem to be all here. Thanks for tuning in to a little bit of a. Oh gosh, I got to change that. Let me change the little caption here. This is what we want. Hey, hey, it's an Indie Mondays brought to you by the Goody Awards right here on the little YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning into the YouTube. Thank you for tuning in to what we have going on today. Not going to be talking too long today. Had a good little live stream yesterday talking about the music and stuff for the week. Did want to take a look at like what some of the chart stuff was, and then I had two movies I wanted to talk about. But yeah, one of those movies being the old Joker sequel, which I just watched today, and I don't know, I could I'll get into it when I get into it, but it's like I could talk about this movie a lot, or I could talk about it very briefly. But it's just one of those things that's like uh, I'm I was very intrigued to see all about uh, just because people were having such intense reactions to it, and now I feel like I do kind of understand some of those reactions, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Let's go ahead and get to some charts, though. Let's see a bit about what's been going on with the albums, with the songs, and so on and so forth here on a Monday, a little charts Monday. So let me share my screen right here, and we'll get right into this. Come on, where's the? Here we go. All right, so we got a new one, number one on the albums charts. Uh, Futures project mixtape Pluto is number one. So sort of Sabrina Carpenter knocking out anyone else who was holding there. So that's at number one. I mean, now we finally are seeing the because this is always from a couple of weeks ago. We're seeing Katy Perry on here. Oh, go away, please. Um, we're seeing Katy Perry on the charts. So she's on some of our lower end of things. Sorry, I'm having some issues here, showing some things. Uh, but yeah, so we're also seeing a variety of people here on the charts. So, but yeah, so that's the biggest thing is features at the number one spot on the albums charts, and then for the Hot 100, with all our singles and everything. Let's see, what did we have going on there today? Let's check it out. I may not be able to show it on my computer, but I'll read it off here off the phone. So Shabuzi still number one with a bar song, and then we have The Weeknd and Playboi Carti showing up for the first time in a little bit with Timeless, their little collab, and then Sabrina Carpenter a little bit. Not anything else too crazy. Shabuzi at number one, Birds of number three, two, and then Weeknd at number three. So that's the charts. Charts are holding up mostly pretty normal, mostly what we've been used to seeing, and that is that, and so on and so forth. And yeah, so we'll keep an eye out, see if anything else shows up that we need to be aware of. Anything else crazy that we need to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's a movie Mondays right here on the Goody Awards. So let's see. We got a little chat coming through. How do I feel about the top five? Ashley, I'm assuming you're meaning top five songs, or you might also be talking about top five albums. If you want to sort of clue me in what you're referring to there, that would be super helpful. But yeah. I could react to. Let's see what's in the. Go on here. Yeah, I think we're not anything super crazy with music past weekend, past couple of weeks, but we're just continuing to go along with what we've got with the sort of music release schedule. I feel like we're songs. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. How do I feel about the top five songs? Which in order are so we have a bar song at number one. Shabuzi's still there. I think because this is a couple weeks behind. I think it's still a holdover from sort of like the song of the summer type stuff. I think as we get into fall, I would imagine that we start to see a bar song kind of dip down a little bit, but also people are all back to school and everything, so that may also continue to be something that gets a lot of play as just a bunch of young people are all hanging out together and stuff like that. Billie Eilish, "Birds of a Feather." It's surprising to me that that song is still just hanging around. I mean, nothing against Billie Eilish, and also like all support for her, but it's just striking to me that that song continues to hold on the charts and has gone up and down a little bit. So Billie Eilish number two, and then The Weeknd, Playboi Carti. You know, that's a new release. That's a new thing that we're seeing on here. I think The Weeknd is a big player. Playboi Carti has a lot of fans, and so we'll see. We'll really get to see if that one hangs around, and then we can have a better idea of sort of what that's showing. And then I had some help. Post Malone and Morgan Wallen's at number four. So I mean, that's one that's also been really big this summer, continues to be the case. I'm sure also pushed by Post Malone's album, still in the top 10 on the albums charts. And then we've got Sabrina Carpenter, Espresso number five. So with the charts, we continue to just sort of see a general rotation of the same like 15 songs popping in, popping out. We've even got like Lose Control, Teddy Swims number eight, Good Luck Babe number seven, Taste and Please Please number nine and 10. So yeah, well, some newer ones, but just a general rotating door for our songs there on our charts. Yeah, so thanks for that question. That's sort of my general reaction. I would love for some new projects to come out and just sort of blow up the top 10 on the Hot 100, but that's not really how things go day to day. We don't really have anything too crazy, just hitting the zeitgeist in the past couple weeks. So we'll see. We'll see as things continue to go on. If anything crazy happens, we'll talk about it on a good old charts Monday. Globally, I also like to see globally too, sort of what's happening. Sometimes that can be a little bit more interesting about what is a little more popping or what's a little more interesting going on. And on the global charts, we do have much of the same. We've got "Die with a Smile" is at number one though on the global charts. So this is like the Hot 100 is just like the United States for all across the world. Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, are at the top of the charts. And Lady Gaga, we'll talk about her in a minute when we get to talking about the Joker sequel. But before we get to the Joker sequel, I want to hit before we get to the big anticipated box office sequel, large movie thing. I do want to get into to do some what do you call a little bit smaller smaller movies, or one smaller movie that I want to hit is this movie called The Outrun. And so this is a movie starring Saoirse Ronan. It's based on a memoir, and it's what can I say about this movie? I would say it's, if you think about like an indie movie, it's kind of like the definition of an indie movie here. Let me sort of share my screen here so you can have a visual here. So this movie, The Outrun, just came out this past weekend. I heard about this sort of earlier this year because early towards the start of this year, because it had some buzz at festivals that Saoirse Ronan was really good in it. She might be a contender for some acting nominations, and I do think I would agree with that. The Outrun is about this sort of late 20s woman, portrayed by Saoirse Ronan here, who is struggling with an alcohol addiction and trying to get sober and trying to figure out what to do with her life and how to be happy in life, as she's sort of struggling with some sort of family stuff and self stuff up in Northern Ireland. Yeah, so that's what this movie is about. It's based on a memoir. Like I said, it's an indie type movie. It's very character focused, very focused on the struggle that she's going through, trying to depict the addiction that she's dealing with, the struggles that she's dealing with like relapsing or trying to find connection with people or dealing like with her parents' being kind of crazy. And so if you're wanting something with lots of like high octane action in it, you're not going to see that in this movie. But I do think that it's good to check out a movie every once in a while that is kind of just like a slower piece that's more just focused on the human experience and perhaps more specific human experience, like someone who's struggling with addiction, like in this very specific way that she is. And you really get to sort of I can't speak to how closely this aligns with what it's actually like, but I have hope for it just because it's based on someone's actual lived experience that they are adapting a text in order to make this movie. So Saoirse Ronan does do, I think, a good job at. I would imagine she does what you would expect to show the range of someone trying to present a real person, represent a real person struggling with this, because it does a good job in this movie at not just showing like, oh, look at her like going through withdrawals, or her like relapsing, or her like thinking about whenever she was having so much fun and now like she's not, or whatever, or her like getting angry and yelling whenever she's super drunk and people are saying like, no, you can't have alcohol. It shows just like a bunch of other stuff too, to create a larger picture that she is a real person who went through this, that she is representing a real person who went through this, and what that actually looks like. I think it, it talks a little bit about like, it shows her dad and sort of the struggles that he has, how maybe that affected her, and so some of the relationships he has and how she's trying to create new relationships, or sort of fix some old ones. So I think it's a good little picture if you have a chance to see it. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, if you want something a little quieter, a little something more indie, then yeah, maybe check this one out. And I think Saoirse Ronan is definitely does a good job in it. One little brief moment to just talk about, because here on the Goody Awards we like to talk about the combination of music and art, is I may be reaching a little bit here, but I feel like in this piece it does do something about like how there are several moments where she's listening to club music on her headphones as she's sort of surrounded by this agrarian sort of setting. So she's out like taking care of sheep, or out on the shore of the ocean, and she's like listening to club music, and that sort of fades a little bit and then gets reclaimed throughout the movie. But I think it just shows that she's had to give everything up. She's had to give up alcohol, the city, her friends and relationships, and the only thing she kind of has left is the music. Is the only connection to that life, where she says that she was able to have some semblance of happiness, which she now is unable to attain. And so I think it's interesting how it represents that little shred of that memory of that lifestyle with music, and then how a different type of lifestyle is represented with a different type of music later in the piece. And so that's just a little thing that I noticed, because I like to pay attention to music in movies, and I like to see how they use it. And I think that's something they were doing. I see. Was the soundtrack helping the pace and tone of the movie, or was it kind of random? Well, so I would say that the most of the soundtrack was more sort of orchestral, sort of cinematic swells and like strings and things like that, through something that would much more match a sort of like naturalistic setting. But occasionally, it would you would get this sort of in-world music of her listening to her on her headphones of this music, just to create a sense of, and I think it even created like a sense of dissonance, where it was like she was out of place. She was remembering this place, being in the city of London where she wanted to be, where she wanted to have this life, where she had had this life in the past, and sort of being reminded of how that was so antithetical to the sort of more natural way of life that is the sober life that she was trying to attack. So I think that it maybe does have some incongruity, but that's kind of the point. Good question. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so that's the Outrun, starring Saoirse Ronan. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that. A little indie movie on an Indie Monday. All right, now let's get into a movie that is not indie in any way, but has been the talk of the town, the Little Joker Seeker, Folie à Deux. Now, this starring Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Now, this movie, and I'll talk a little bit about, I talked a little bit about the music in the Outrun, but let me talk a little bit now, before I get to the wider scope of the movie, about the music in this movie, because it was in sort of the release up to this Joker sequel, it was announced that it was going to be a musical. And it was like, okay, interesting. How are they going to do that? And the way that they do that in this movie, which I think kind of points to the type of movie that this is, because I've heard so many bad reviews of this movie that it's bombing, that nobody likes it, critics don't like it, audiences don't like it, and is it because it's a musical? Do people these days just hate musicals? No, it does incorporate music in a sort of way, but uh, as a musical, but a lot of it is either in sort of just moments where characters are kind of just singing at each other, or it's in sort of these fantasy dream sequences. So there are a lot of songs that does definitely pad the runtime to make it like 2 hours and 19 minutes long, but it's not like bonkers. What I thought it was going to be a sort of bonkers, like, wow, we're just like in a musical world now, and just go with it. It was like they didn't just go all the way with making it like a fun concept, and I think in a roundabout way of getting at what this movie is because I feel like I could talk about this movie at such length of why I feel like it messes up or why it's bad because it's bad in like a weird way. It's bad in an odd way. It wasn't just like, oh, they tried to do something and it's just not as good as the original, or the acting's bad, or the performances are bad, or the story is bad. Um, it's just like the whole decision from the outright of how to tell this story, of what was told with this story, is like a weird way to do it. Because it's hard to explain it if you haven't seen the first Joker, because what that is unlike some sequels, is so important to understanding this movie and the direction that this movie went in. Uh, because in the original Joker, you have this guy Arthur Fleck, who is this sort of mentally unstable guy who's trying to be a comedian, just like all of us, mentally unstable guys trying to become a comedian. He's this mentally unstable guy trying to be a comedian, and then he sort of goes off the rails a little bit, kills some people, becomes the Joker, da da da. Movie ends. And this movie, and movie comes out very successful. Joaquin Phoenix wins an acting Oscar for it, which I think was pretty well deserved. He does a good job in the role. It also wins the score, which I think the score was good in the original movie. And then again, this gets nominated for Best Picture. A lot of people like it. A lot of people hype it up. The character of the Joker is one that a lot of people love, for better or for worse. They love this sort of chaotic, evil character. And yeah, and so then they greenlight a sequel, and now here we have the sequel. I would love to know, whenever they were making this movie, what they were thinking or where they were coming from, because they obviously had some idea. Because this movie feels very much like a response to the response of the original movie, because it feels like you get a movie like this, you get a movie like Joker or Fight Club or one of those sort of broy type movies where it's like, oh, you glorified the main character, you didn't understand that you weren't supposed to, that it wasn't good, and that it feels like this movie's kind of trying to be like, no, you shouldn't like the Joker. The Joker is bad, and you're cringe for liking him, a bad guy. I can't believe you like a bad guy who killed people. He hurt people, and you liked him. How dare you? The Joker's not even Arthur Fleck. Isn't even the Joker. He's just like a normal guy. It's like, don't like that. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's an interesting thing to say. I think that's an interesting thing to comment on. But you made the Joker. You made him. You made the original movie. You made him look like kind of epic and have all these like cool outfits and dance on the stairs, all fun and everything. You did that. So for you to come back and say that we're dumb and bad or wrong for thinking that, I mean, for idolizing that, yeah, I kind of understand that, but I feel like the calls coming from inside the house a little bit. Like, so I don't know. I think like that is the main sort of issue I have with this movie. The main sort of like downfall of this movie is it feels like it's alienating the audience that sort of loved it so much. Ate it up. So it's alienating them. So it's like, okay, uh, well, now you don't have that as the, you're not doing fan service in this way. You're not appealing to what the fans want. The fans want to see some more wacky Joker stuff. Whoa, I want to see more wacky, crazy Joker stuff. So you didn't show that really. All the anything you see in the trailer that looks like wacky Joker stuff, it's all in his head. It's all imagined dream sequences. None of that actually happens. Uh, but then all right. So the audience is gone. General audiences are gone. The fans are gone. what about the critics? Well, you have this message, but it's all kind of convoluted, and it's kind of like it feels a little like hypocritical a little bit. And then it's kind of put together with this slapped on runtimes padded with these musical sequences, and then you kind of try to shoehorn a message in to be like, it's not good for you to like bad guys and to like villains. And it's like, okay, sure, but like, couldn't you have told that in a better way? So now the I feel like the critics are gone, and so you have no one who really likes this movie. And I don't hate this movie. I think it's kind of interesting. Just like, I mean, I was kind of bored a little bit because I feel like it doesn't really go anywhere. It's like half the movie is just like these dream sequences of like him imagining being together with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, and then like the other half is this sort of half cooked court case. But there's no fun to it. It's like the music's not fun. The court case, which usually could be like a dramatic sense, like, oh, here's we're gonna hear a big speech. That's not fun. And the stuff at yeah, it's just like the sort of things that they sprinkle in. It's kind of like because it's like they should kind of show this guy's a loser a little bit, which he is even the first movie, but they kind of were like, yeah, this guy definitely is not the Joker. And so they do some fan service there, but it's like that's not really fun either. That just feels kind of disappointing. It's just like, who is this movie for? And it feels kind of like maybe it is just for like Todd Phillips, the director, to be like, hey, I'm trying to sort of recognize what I did with my original movie and to sort of atone for that. But I feel like you just could have done that in a better way because I feel like you just it feels also a little immature. It's like if you because the first movie could be seen very much as like, oh, I'm 14 and this is deep society, man. Oh, society sort of abandons the loneliness of us and treats them like trash. And then they lash out. Whoa, you better watch out. That's what the first movie's like. Second movie is like, oh, I was 14 then. I thought it was so deep. I'm 18 now, and it's like, man, that kind of sucked. Actually, I'm thinking a little empathetically now. I'm thinking a little critically now, and like, maybe we shouldn't heroize someone like that. It's like, okay, cool, nice, but like, I still feel like you have not completed your journey of how to think about this character. I don't know. There's a lot of scattered thoughts about this, but it's a very convoluted movie. Like it feels incomplete. It feels half baked. It feels he got a blank check to make this movie, but it's just like I don't know. It's strange that it's just I was hoping that it's like, oh, everyone hates it. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna have a fun time, but I didn't have a fun time. I don't think this movie wants you to have fun, which is maybe kind of the point. But it's like, okay, well, what are we doing? And maybe this just goes to show like why you shouldn't adapt comic book characters to sort of this gritty reality. At some point, you have to just acknowledge that it's kind of silly, and you have to just go with it and make something kind of fun and cathartic and intriguing and engaging in action. If you try to actually make it real, if you try to push it to the limits of trying to make it actually realistic, it all falls apart and you get something like that. And I think this may be like my main thesis, is like this is why comic book movies have a limit. They have a limit to them. They have to have some suspension of disbelief. Because if you try to make them real, they don't work. They aren't real life. It's not what real life is like. Stuff like this can't actually work. And so when you try to do that, it all falls apart because people want to see something fun. That's why they see a comic book movie, and there's just no fun to this movie. So yeah, that's sort of my take on that. If I'm talking about the music a little bit, I do think Lady Gaga put out a project, Harley Quinn, in leading up to this last week. She put this out. I did listen to it. It's not some bad music. It's a lot of big band music. Definitely has her leaning into sort of it's definitely like a sort of um, piece, definitely a concept album focused around the uh, the movie. She has her doing some covers, I think some originals, but yeah. So it's not a bad project if you just want some big band music. I think it's better to listen to it in absence of the movie. I think the movie does not inform it much better. I think the movie cheapens the album. So if you just want to listen to some sort of Lady Gaga singing some good sort of big band, classic type, traditional pop type music, maybe check it out. But I think kind of just a lot of misses in this movie. But what can I say? It's so fascinating to me, just like how you can make a giant movie like this and just have it be not have it miss the mark in such a way. So I think that's just an interesting way interesting turn of events. Here I was thinking that like this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. As I was just like, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be good or bad, but it's gonna be. I'm very interested to see what they do, and I was interested, but I can't really get on board. I'm trying to think if maybe it's just like maybe just like fans are like, oh, it wasn't what I expected, and so like this sucks, and like oh maybe like in 10 years we'll come back and be like actually like it was ahead of its time, like it was whoa, like it was really thinking. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I just do not think that it is that smart. I think it thinks it's a little that smart, but I think it's trying to it's almost like trying to have its cake and eat it too. Not quite, but a little bit. It's like you're making a Joker movie, but also saying don't I don't want to be a Joker movie. It's like, what's the point? You can't do that. You can't. It's impossible. So that's. But I gotta talk. I gotta move on because uh, I'll talk about it all day. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on if you've seen the Joker movie, if you have any thoughts about that, whether you're in the live stream or you're seeing this afterwards, be sure to comment. I'd be interested to know what you have to say about it. But if you've seen it, which not a lot of people have, it's been bombing a little bit, and I'm sure that bad reviews will keep people away, and they'll just like wait till it's on streaming or something and maybe check it out then. But yeah, so that is two movies. We have the Outrun if you want something a little indie Mondays. You know what I'm saying? And then Joker, if you do see it, let me know. I'm interested to see what you have to say. And yeah, this has been a little, just quick stream here, talking a little bit about charts, talking a little bit about some movies, and I'm excited, looking forward to this week. If we're looking a little ahead, this upcoming week, the Pharrell Lego movie is coming out. So that'll be interesting. It's kind of like it seems like a sort of biopic dramatization about sort of Pharrell Williams, the music producer who made like Happy and all that stuff. Uh, what his sort of journey in music was. So I'm interested to see that just because it looks like it'll be really fascinating. So I'll keep you posted on that. Also, it seems like what do you call Saturday Night is going in wider release this weekend, so I'm gonna try to catch that as well. So yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in to a Indie Mondays, talking a little bit about some movies here on Movies Monday, and if any movies that come out this weekend, any things I check out, I'll be sure to let you know right here on the Indie Mondays, brought to you by the Goody Awards. All right, have a great night, everyone. So long, so long, so long.